Hey guys, I'm having to do a voiceover because my microphone on my camera is so bad it was like talking through a pillow, so I'm having to do the whole thing again. This is a Eufycam 2K pan and tilt that had a pink screen, which is apparently fairly common. Um, I got it because I gave it a Del Boy slap because it was stuck in a reboot cycle that I couldn't fix. So before sending back, I figured I'd try and take it apart. There's 4 screws on the bottom, that's easy enough, and then this bottom bit just pulls out nicely. Got to take out these 4 cables. The 3 plugs are easy enough. The ribbon cable, if you've never seen or never touched one before, it's a bit more tricky. There's a little tab, a little black tab, and if you pull it downwards and sort of up, it will clip upwards. Don't pull it too hard, or you might snap it, and then you're gonna have a world of problems. I do try giving it a little tug to get it out, but then I realized if I just take the circuit board out, it would just end up being quicker. I'm talking in advance of the video here, but yeah, probably not the best way to do it. Tweezers might be better, but if you just take the little board out, there's 2 screws on it, and then just pull the board out, and then the cable should hopefully come out, damage free. Just be careful with ribbon cables because they are very delicate. They're replaceable, sure, but it's not something you ever want to have to do realistically. Now there are 2 screws in the corners, well I say the corners, in the sides, but they're through the little holes. You have to rotate the base to get to the holes, or the screws if you will. Yeah, there you go, see. They're hidden up in there. So you're going to take those 2 screws out. And then the entire top slides off. They need to take that screw out there. On the other side there's just a clip, but that's the bit you need to get into. That's that screw out and done with. So if you just unclip that white bit, and then the other side there's a slot, and it will just unclip from that slot. Just remember when you go to put it back together again, it does sit in a slot. That cable comes out, and then that's that entirely removed from there. There's a whole screw there. Yeah, I'm not very good at keeping it in shot. It's completely out of line. It's not the best. There's 1 screw there, and then you got to take the motor out, which there's 2 screws for the motor right there and there. Easy enough. It's quite well built, to be honest. There's a lot of screws and stuff, but it's pretty well built. And that motor should just slide out. But it's still attached, so, And then you've got to get a spudger or something to unclip the sides. I mean, I use a butter knife because I've used a butter knife for spudging ever since I was a kid. So I do have spudgers, but I tend to always go back to the butter knife. Just, if you do use a butter knife, they are quite thin, which is good, but also quite sharp if you were to hit a cable, so be wary of that. But it is quite a hard thing to unclip. It is well clipped together. Oh, also, yeah, take the SD card out. That would probably help. I had already done it, but I forgot to mention it. That coming apart yet? Nope, not yet. Oh, there we go. I'm just unplugged the motor. You don't have to worry about the ribbon cable. Just, you could leave it in the case, to be honest, but it can slide out through the slot. Just remember what slots each cable goes through. Or they could just rewatch the video, and I suppose that would tell you as well. And there's 4 screws in each corner here. It's quite natty. That little blue thing is a like a thermal heat pad, as far as I can tell. And on the opposite side of that is a lot, on the other side of the board is a chip, and it seems to use the motor housing as a heatsink, which I found quite natty, really. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not what it's for at all, but maybe it's just to stop vibration. I haven't got a clue. But it seems like it's using it as a heatsink. And there's a couple of cables on the opposite side. Well, one this side, but they go to the IR LED ring. So just unplug them. They can only go in certain places, so it's not like you're getting confused. And there's your lens. That's connected to a little pink, well, a little white plug, but the pink stuff is glue, so the first time we take it out, it is going to be tricky to pull it out. Just don't be forceful, but you know, give it a bit of effort. There's 2 screws on that side of the board, tiny little screws that hold the lens on. And then that just pops off. Mine came off a lot easier because I've already taken it apart. But if you just, it's sort of set in, but it's not hard to get off. It's just a little bit of pulling and it will come off. And my monitor's turned off. That's really helpful right now. There we go. Right, and now there is the lens, and you've got a little screen there, which I'll now show you. There's 2 little metal tabs on this side. You've got to unclip them, which is, they're tiny, so good luck with that. Again, tweezers probably would have helped, but they're like at least a foot away from me, and who has time to reach a foot to get the tools you need? It's effort. And then it's metal, and you've got to bend that right down. Maybe there's a better way of doing it, but this is how I do it. Now in here you see 2 little coils, and it's sort of like almost like a clock. They just control a magnetic, I want to say guillotine, or like, well, a slider probably makes more sense. And that just pushes that up and down, so either, if it ever works, it takes me a while. And then that slides out of the way, so it's got a little, it's on a slider, so you've got pink screen, no pink screen, pink filter. Well, it's not really a pink filter, but you know. Yeah, in my case, mine was just stuck. So I had to, it took a little bit more force to push it back down, but once I did, it now works smooth and free. So there's a good chance that giving it another Del Boy slap would fix it again. But I wouldn't really recommend beating up your electronics. I just did it because I was infuriated with it after spending ages trying to get it working again. But yeah, that's all it is really. But it seems to be a fairly common problem, which I wonder why other people's would potentially get stuck if they haven't given it a beating. I suppose maybe the coils could just wear out and just shorten, and they just get stuck in one position or the other. In which case, I suppose it's technically fixable. But I mean, if anyone's got a spare one stuck like that, I'd love to give it a go. But I'm pretty sure it'd be almost impossible to fix. Yeah, that's basically it. And then you just bend that back up. You might need to bend the clips in a little bit because I'm bending them out to unclip it, but they should clip back on again. And then it can only go on one way, cable towards the top, and there is a little groove it sits on. Do not touch the little sensor there, the little shiny thing. Don't touch it, don't let dust get on it. If dust does get on it, try and blow it away. I suppose you could potentially clean it with alcohol, but I honestly wouldn't know. I've never cleaned a camera sensor before, and I don't ever really want to have to because they look so dainty. Also be careful with the guillotine and everything, because that's really fine as well. If you break one of those wires in there, the coils, they're dead. It's gone. So now I'll just leave you while I put it all back together again. Looking at it now, you probably could have kept the motor connected to the shell. Actually, I don't think you needed to. Well, I needed to take it off. I think it would. Don't think it screws into anything internally, so that would have just saved me some time, to be honest. But never mind. Let's clip it all back together. Make sure that the notch lines up with the bar thing. I've forgotten. Now this cable, I find it easier to put the cable in first. Make sure the tab's still up. Be gentle with it. It might take a little while, but it will eventually go in. It doesn't have to go in too far, just so the black line on it lines up with the catch, basically the end of the catch, and then screw it in because it just seems easier to line it up. The rest of the cables can only go in one way. They've all got unique fittings, so they can only go into one place. And then the base also has a notch that lines up with the bottom of the base, but it can only go in one way as well, so you shouldn't be able to get it in backwards. Now I'm just going to show that it does still work. Mostly for me, I wanted to make sure that I didn't break it. Just trying to get the night vision to work, so I figured I'd just show it on the camera. And there you go. Cheers.